All right, Unit 6 Final. This one was pretty trying here at the end. I ended up running into quite a few issues, but got them all resolved and finally ready to rock and roll. So my GUI is all set up here on the actual um, main application script that you run. And then, so the way this one's kind of built is all my information really lives here as far as all of the stock information and all of the um, methods that are required um, by each class are here in the interface. So I really like how I can set these, and they're basically just static variables that I really don't have to mess with anymore. And then in each class, I created a starting array, which is just a copy of this variable from the interface, and then this working array, which is the one that I really mess with. And the way these are set up is each standard method uh, just returns a string, and you say, hey, this method, and then it just gives you the string array of whatever it is, say processor or RAM or hard drive. It just returns the appropriate 2D array for that. And really, in hindsight now, these could have just been a 1D array. Didn't really need to be a 2D array. This guy had to be a 2D because it's the one that actually returns the working array. So pretty much what happens is from here, whenever you click any button, it submits it all back to whatever class you're using, and then it changes this working array. And then if for any reason you reset or you change to a new class, it basically just wipes this one, copies this guy again, and then you start manipulating it. So these two classes are identical in the way everything is named. That's just the way that I figured that would be the easiest way to do it. That way I could even name them virtually the same thing and then just toggle between the two. And then here is where the differences are. Is here's the Intel base, the AMD base, and then the Intel processors and the AMD processors. And then how I ended up doing this, let me see, for some reason this isn't saved. Oh, I know why. So I tried to name everything that I could up here that I wanted to use throughout the entire program, and then basically just set up my whole GUI, and I just used a basic GUI, stacked everything in, centered, and then went 14 rows down or something like that. I used checkboxes for everything, and then I used button groups for the things that couldn't be selected at the same time, so it made them more like a radio button instead of that. But I liked the way the checkboxes look, just to keep everything uniform. And I've set up all my action listeners. Let's see. All right, and here's where I set my frame. So right here, this is pretty much all the methods from here on out. So essentially anything that I could break down into just a single method, I did. So this one right here is how I switch between the processors. And you know what, I'll go ahead and pop this up and show you how that runs. So we get the application up here, and whenever you click on Intel, and it starts default on Intel, it just doesn't have it filled in, and it starts default on Windows 8.1, it just doesn't fill it in either. But so you can see here's our price, it'll update live, and then you can see here are the processors, and this is all the Intel processors. And then whenever we hit AMD, then it switches. So it basically resets everything whenever you do this. So if you have anything selected, because there's no guarantee that it'll be available with the AMD or the Intel. So it just wipes it out and you start from the base again. Now, if for some reason you get going and you wanted to start back over at the base, we've got a reset button. You can click that and it resets everything for whatever base you're using. And then as you select things, you can see here, this keeps going up. And then these two are not selectable together because it's the same thing. It's just an upgraded version. And then these guys are good to go. You can do this. Linux actually minuses out. You can see that. RAM, this guy, and that guy. All right, and then we'll hit the order. So the order form is a little messy. I could have cleaned it up a little bit more, but it really gets the job done. You can see the system is the AMD, and this is the base price, and then it has everything listed out here, an itemized invoice basically of everything that you've selected and the price that it is. And then when it gets to applications, it lists whatever the applications are, and then the total price of all the applications. I didn't do an itemized on that one. And then your subtotal, which is just everything added up, the taxes, which is just your taxes there, your shipping, and then everything together, total cost. So it works. And yeah, that's really about it. Some of the biggest errors that I had is, I'll show you here, this price field. So here I was actually setting everything, and within set system I was basically setting all the variables so the combo box would load correctly, depending on which system. And because I was running this, it actually sets the price field also, but the price field wasn't instantiated yet, so I had to move it up here. Took me a while to find that one. Also, the main driver of the entire thing is the interface. I was able to create an instance of that interface array. So it's an array of objects that implement this interface, and I was able to just set up a new Intel class and a new AMD class, and then just toggle between the two using this obint. So whenever you click the Intel, then you can see right here, if Intel selected, obint is 0, and if AMD is selected, obint is 1. So it literally just toggles between the two, and then everything else is completely identical between the two objects. The only difference was the combo box, and the combo box was a little tricky, but I finally got it figured out. And then there's a hiccup too, because I ended up having to use a default combo module or something like that, and it was kind of wonky. And it, for some reason, whenever you use the action event, it hits it twice, and it says the first indexed that's selected is 0, and then it immediately says 1. So it'll cause it to run twice. Or the immediate is -1 and then 0 and -1. In Java, at least, is not an index of an array. So that one was kind of strange. I've never seen that before, but a little fix for that fella. And yeah, that's about it. So I hope that all this has fulfilled, and I've packaged up these 4 classes so you can set them up and run them. Essentially, you just, I'm sure you know, but just compile these 3 and then run this guy, and yeah, you can pop it up and start playing with it. All right, well, thank you, and it's been fun.